All right, everybody. I'm here with my good friend Joe Hashey on another great episode of the Business of Strength, and we're really excited to have Joe on. Joe's been a friend of ours now for a bunch of years. We've followed Joe, and a lot of the things that Joe's done in business is kind of like we were just talking a little bit before we hopped on and hit the record button, are kind of like the golden goose of the gym industry to be able to create a brand that's successful from scratch, to remove yourself from the day-to-day workings of that brand and now sell that brand off to a long-time employee is kind of the dream of a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs. So Joe, I'm super excited. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for sharing your story and talking to our listeners.
My pleasure. I love the work that you and Dan, the Varsity House Squad, do. Love the chop busting. I love the business talk. It's always great whenever we get together.
That's awesome. So obviously, a little bit about, I'll let you tell your own story, but, Joe owned a gym, successful gym, Synergy Athletics, up in New York, near Binghamton, in New York, and has since moved his family out to Colorado. And for the last, what, Joe, about 4 years now, was running the business remotely.
Exactly.
Okay. And just recently, within the last few months, has sold a portion or the majority of the business off to a longtime employee. And again, like I talked about, a lot of business owners say they want to sell their gym. And it's like, I'm going to be multiples of millions, and it's going to be, this, that, and the other. So tell us, give us the synopsis of how, you know, the gym thing became the gym thing, and what some of the steps were along the way in creating, the Synergy brand at the beginning. And we can kind of go through things step by step a little bit. How did Synergy become a thing, and how did the gym business become your thing?
So initially, I was a high school teacher for 8 years, teaching high school U.S. history and social studies. But I always had this itch to help out specifically athletes at the beginning. I was a college athlete playing football and had a series of knee surgeries, and a lot of it was my own fault. I did not come in with the proper fitness level. I did not come in with the proper training. I didn't seek out the proper help. And I wanted to help other kids in our community not go down the same path where you have this dream of being a big college athlete. You get through a couple of years and all of a sudden you're under the knife and you don't even think about those sort of things. And so I was coaching sports, started training some people out of my basement garage, and it just started getting too busy. And over the course of a year, we found a little location, moved over there. Then I started jamming over there. And then we added adults, which skyrocketed our company. This is like year 4, year 5 now.
Mm-hmm.
And
So in
what,
the first beginning stages of Synergy, Joe, it was just all athletes, like a lot of
yep,
us, like same thing, like
yep,
varsity house. Yep.
exactly. We had the huge successful winters and summers and the
Yep.
scarce springs because of big team sports, scarce
Yeah.
fall when the kids are back to school. So riding that wave, and I was able to make a lot of the mistakes at the early phase, figure out my marketing, make it not about me, but about the client, because that's who I wanted to help. So it wasn't like, oh, Joe can do everything. It's
Right.
Joe's the best trainer now. I was like, you want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, let's put in the effort together, and I'll just be your helpful guide along the way. But it took some maturation at the beginning, made some mistakes with that. And fortunately, I was still teaching school. I was running the gym. I was running the gym. We had the morning session 6 to 7. My teaching day was 7:20, so I had 20 minutes to get over to school until 2:50. At 2:50 was the end of the contract day, and our gym was 8 minutes away, and our first session was at 3. So I had 2 minutes to spare in case there was traffic to get there and run the gym 3 to 7. Around 6 p.m., I'd hit 2 scoops of NO Explode. Right at 7, I would be ready to go for my own lift, work
Yeah.
out, go home, do a whole thing over again. All year round, 2 full-time jobs, growing the company, being the only employee at the company, doing the quote unquote marketing, which wasn't a
Yeah.
whole lot at the beginning,
How
figuring
long
that
did
all
you
out.
run? How long did you do that double job schedule?
Oh, it was about 3 years, 3.5 years.
Man.
We had one young son at the time, and I had to go through a realization. Like I essentially only saw him on weekends. He was awake after I already
Right.
left, and he was in bed when I got home. And we were able to hang out on the weekend.
Right.
Love my family very much, and that was a tough time where we just had to figure out. My wife was incredibly supportive and
Yeah.
knew that me doing all this allowed her the opportunity at the beginning to stay home with the kids and raise our family. And that was a sacrifice we discussed and was willing to make at that time. And the company kept growing and growing and growing. And one summer, I fell out of a tree and broke my leg. It was actually in the spring, shattered my right leg. and they put me on bed rest for like 2 months. And during those 2 months, the company grew exponentially because I was actually able to, for the first time, focus on running a business versus training people.
Hmm.
So I'm in bed running like I only had one very good staff member. I'm very thankful at that time. The members were great. Like they would pick me up and drive me because I couldn't drive. To give me rides home from the gym. But I was able to focus on it. And during that spring and through the summer, it got so busy, and we opened a second location that I couldn't go back to teaching in the fall. I had to choose a path, whether I was going to go into administration for schools to pursue more income for my family that way, or go all in on myself and go on the business route and get the adults in, learn how to hire people, learn org structures, learn a lot more than just the training, and went through that process. So that's kind of the early stage up until I
Hmm.
went in full time finally.
So couple things to touch on there, and then we could talk about like I think some of the things that made Synergy super successful and allowed it to stay, have a 15-year staying power. And obviously you've set it up really nicely for the next generation. And I know the people personally who are taking over the business, and I think it's in great hands still. Um, you talked about me versus them marketing a little bit, and I think that at a moment of maturity there, and I think that's a huge issue industry wide now, where you see so many people just it's like influencer marketing, which is all about them, and it's a different type of thing if you're trying to be an influencer. Um, how did that come about? Like what? Because again, you were doing the diesel crew stuff. You were doing like the badass garage workouts and the YouTube videos. I seen them. I know they're there, right? The big 280
Oh
pound
yeah,
Joe
back in the
Hashey,
just the
you know.
back in the strongman days, doing all the heavy lifting, traveling to West Side, traveling to Elite, traveling to all those places to learn from them. Old a lot of universities I went to learn the training styles, and I made it about me. I was writing and contributing for different health magazines at the time. Um, but then realized like, all right, well, they are really there for their results, not like I'm not that famous that they can rub shoulders and all of a sudden they're famous too. That's not how it works.
Right,
They're
right.
there to get their own results, to work on their speed, to their durability, to have success in sports, to be able to create lifelong habits for the athletes, for the adults to find their youthful energy. They're all there for their own reasons, which they should be. I don't go to a restaurant and think like, all right, well, hopefully the chef eats well tonight. No, I want to eat well tonight. I want my piece of it. So uh, I had to change the marketing around and work with some branding people. So that first phase, I was doing a lot of travel, speaking at conference, NSCA events, but it was all on the fitness side, which I'm very, very thankful for. Learn from
Mhm.
all these different
Sure,
people that I mentioned. And then I went to a 4 year phase where I traveled around, learned from as many businesses as possible, from fitness ones. I was able to visit the Cressies, was able to visit other ones too, restaurants,
sure.
places in the hospitality industry, a construction company I went to look at their org structure, a computer company who's a friend of mine invited me in. I just learned tons from these people on the business
Sure.
side.
I think that because I think like a lot of people outward again we said like the influencer marketing, so a lot of people see that and it's really natural. I think it's natural. It's only natural for somebody who's excited about the career. They're learning lots of new stuff and they want to post about all this cool stuff that they're doing in the gym. But like you said, the relevance of that for like the regular client, it almost has none to them. And like, video old school like YouTube videos of me like swinging sledgehammers and flipping tires, and I know you have them too. It's like, how does that relate to a 50-year-old mom who hasn't seen the inside of a gym in 15 years? It probably does more harm than good in terms of marketing.
They find it more funny now. But like you
Yeah.
said, the influencer marketing is a terribly dangerous model for you to embrace if you're running a business because number one, if you hire well, number one, if you're the influencer, they won't want to train with other staff members. So you're undermining any future employees you have by making yourself the main show. Now, if you encourage them to be influencers of their own, then you run into the risk that they leave and your clients leave because they're not a member of your business, they're a member of that person's training session. So
Right.
it makes
It's
you
like their
incredibly
brand.
vulnerable. Yeah, it makes you very vulnerable in a business that you want to scale if you're leaning into influencers.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that like, and I know you did the same. Me and you had a conversation about this, why you called it synergy versus varsity house and so forth. And it was like I never wanted it to be like Riggio training systems or something like that. Because then again,
Yeah.
it was like, nobody wants to see a big picture of a Goomba on the side of a building. It's like, hey,
Papa Riggio
Papa
sounds like
Riggio's
a
Fitness or
pizza
something like
joint.
that.
Anyways, not Jim.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Papa Riggio's Pizza. And I did have that epiphany early on in my career as well, where it was like, all right, if I label it, Riggio Performance Systems or something like that, it becomes all about me. And at the point where I, then hire some people, it's like, well, no, I only want to train with who's the Riggio guy. I want to train with him. Like he's the owner, like he's the name on the building. So, and I think that has, when I talk to guys I'm friends with, like the Jay Ferrugias, the Joe DeFrancos, even Eric Cressy, that has become kind of a thing where they were labeled into the guy role, and those guys became successful in that role, but maybe we don't have the charisma or whatever you want to call it to be the next Joe D or Jay Ferrugia and those guys who've kind of transcended into the influencer marketing, into the podcasting world and so forth in a different light. So we were the brick and mortar guys. So fast forward a little bit, Synergy's up and running, super successful. What were some of the key things that you think gave Synergy 15 years? Again, in the industry, most trainers are out of the industry in 2 years or less. Most small businesses fail within the first 5 years. What were some of the key things, either business, hiring, and just structure, that allowed you to be successful for a long period of time?
So I almost stumbled into this backwards. It wasn't intentional. I can't give myself credit. It was more that I was being cheap. I got really good at marketing strategies other than digital marketing first.
Yes.
So digital marketing will and can, if it's run right, fill your bucket. But it could be a leaking bucket. Most people do. They open a gym, they get a marketing firm to do a bunch of ads. They come in, they have a lot of system problems, they have a lot of people problems, they have a lot of relationship problems, they have a lot of not knowing how to onboard someone problems. And we tightened up all that stuff first. Now we did
Mm.
tremendously use digital marketing from 2018 on. So good 6, 7 years we used it. But first we got good at getting referrals. We got very good at retention. The company still runs an incredibly low retention rate of, I think it's below 2%, where the
Damn.
industry is turning closer to 7. It's because we did these things first. We got our referrals, we got our reviews, we built tremendous relationships with our members. Then we took those relationships and we built them in the community. Our members would ask, hey, can you come speak at our elementary school health and fitness day? Now we're going to get nothing out of it except for deepen the relationship with the member who cares about these kids. That is plenty for us. We'll take the
Mm-hmm.
labor hours to show up and run kids through a gym class. We never said no. We go run the youth sports teams through warm-ups all the time. Yeah, our kids would go play. Like, let us go teach your coaches a quick 5 exercise warm-up. They're all volunteers. Let's just do this out of the goodness of our heart. We're all community members trying to help these kids build longer habits. And we took that approach first. I wouldn't even have called it marketing at the time. We just did what we thought was right. And it developed us
It was
incredibly
more
deep
like there's just a hustle
relationships.
mentality. Like we got to get out in the community. It's the only way people are going to know who we are.
Yeah, it was like we asked ourselves, like, who can we help? Like we took a little league baseball team, trained them free for 6 weeks. They had no ability to pay. It was just a volunteer league. They gave me like an autographed signed ball that I still have. All the kids
Oh,
signed
nice.
in their like their sixth grade handwriting. But we just did things that were really cool, and so that built our reputation in the community. Up to I was a small business person of the year from the chamber, which helped the business grow because we did a lot of these things. But also became an attractive place to work. So trainers aren't thinking, your prospective hires aren't thinking like, all right, well, which gym will give me the best ratio of my 1099? Do I get 60% of the one-on-ones or 50%? Like, no, I want to work somewhere that does awesome things. That supersedes a lot of the other structural transactional items. So you get the pick of the litter if you're able to hire people and grow them because you're doing cool things with people who want to do those. Kids who were at those events that I spoke at came and worked for us. We had one of my favorite trainers, Sarah, was a student in my high school, came to the gym. She was a college hockey player and then came back and trained with us. Now she's a parole officer, I believe, in South Carolina. But she was a great
Mm.
trainer for a year and a half, and she understood our system and everything we were about. It's just somewhere she wanted to work.
Yeah, I think that's a critical. I think it's a critical mindset shift in a sense, and we're at a point, obviously, where today digital marketing is easier than it's ever been. It's different than it's been. It's the access and the ease of use is so good with all our digital systems that it seems like a natural default. Like I'll just default to, I post stuff on social media and I'm paying for ads. And I think a lot of people, personally in our consulting group, and a lot of people, that we work with, obviously, meeting all the people in Vince's group and the SBF and so forth, in other business groups that we're in, it's like, oh my God, you guys like still go to football games? You guys, oh, you don't, you're doing free, you do a free speed clinic. It's like, yeah, yeah, we still do all that stuff. Like, because nothing's ever good. Like, no, I mean, look, of course, we've had some digital bangers, but nothing replaces, going to meet the principal, a bunch of teachers that are trying to run a cool, like around here, they call them enrichment programs. We have these after school enrichment programs, and we always say yes. It's like, yeah, we'll come down and work with the kids for a couple hours for a few weeks.
Yeah, you do a great job with this at Varsity House, and I love it. You're an experience what most people push back against this methodology that we're teaching, which is, well, you can't scale that. Like you can't go out and do this in every community. Like, what if you want to open a place 30 minutes away? Well, you can teach that culture and you need to plant that seed and eventually you get there. So you people who use that as an excuse are just, I'll tell you what, they're boring people who don't like to talk to other people. They don't have the charisma to
Yeah.
walk into a group and be like, hey, can I help you? Instead, they're a little bit self-conscious and they're not sure of their own value that they contribute to an organization. They mask it by saying, oh, well, I want to use just this type of ads, or like, you can't scale that. All right, well, do your thing. There's a reason
Yeah.
why, well, companies like ours have been around, are going to be multiple generation companies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, hey, look, and I think it's a fear of failure. I never cared. It was like in my, I came from a pretty low socioeconomic background. So me just having a job and a career and an idea that I like that I the idea that I knew what I wanted to do with my life was about 10,000 times better than, what I grew up with. So it was like I was winning anyway. So it's like, what's the
Uh,
worst this guy could tell me, to F off and get out of here? Like,
yeah.
big deal,
Yeah,
you know?
no one ever did for me, but I would have those nerves too. It's
Yeah.
similar upbringing. However, the mindset shift was like, I have an obligation to help these people I'm speaking
Yeah.
to. I believe our service is the best. I believe our community is the best. And I believe this person deserves an opportunity to come join us and try it out and improve the quality of their life. So I'm doing them a disservice if I'm being a coward and not speaking up because I get social anxiety, which sometimes I do. Like it
Yeah.
happens, but you got to live up
I
to
see you
your
circling
potential.
around the outskirts of your kids' sports practices.
Establishing dominance, let them know what's up.
Yes, yes. Shirt off, ruck vest on, like circling around the outer perimeter of the soccer field.
Yeah, stay gotta establish.
That's it, right? Yeah, yeah, I do believe it's a lot of just and to your point that you said, like nobody has ever told me to get out of here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
most people have been incredibly gracious, and I it's classic Pat Rigsby. Selling is helping. If you can't sell them, you can't help them. So you have to learn to have thick skin and just go out there and say hello to people.
absolutely. And to your point about digital marketing, it does have some quote unquote bangers. I know it's a new a Joe Riggio saying, uh,
Mm-hmm.
agreed. I would challenge people to go a month without losing any members first. Actually, first of all, get yourself like 50, 60 members,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like five.
yeah.
Get yourself 50, 60 members, go a couple months without losing anybody, and then do the digital marketing and you add, let's say 20 members. Don't lose them either. Like reload and focus on keeping the people that have raised their hand and giving you the opportunity to help them versus trying to chase around the next offer, the next flashy thing to fill a
Sure.
place. This is speaking from a deficit because we've had offers go huge and it made it so busy that it watered down for a couple of months, watered down our service to people who had been paying us for years. And we had to quickly rectify it, go to a waiting list. And they saw us make the changes and they were willing to give us the leeway to fix it because we had the relationships. But we've screwed it up first. So keep
Oh
the
yeah.
members you have first, then get some more.
It's great advice, and I had just written an article about this for a fitness publication about retention and the cost of acquisition and the unsunk cost of acquisition. And I think like a lot of people, they just solely base it on how much they spend on ads, right? And it's like, oh,
Mm.
I spend $1,000 a month on ads and I get 20 clients a month. It's like, all right, well, you spend $1,000 on ads I'm sure there's some ads management, there's time in there. There's also the time of acquisition of your sales team, your training team, and we have to spend all this time to get a client to think that they like the place and kind of put their pinky toe in the cold water versus I already have a gym full of people who know us, love us, use the product. They're here all the time. And it's like, all right, let's just keep those people super happy and loving the product.
That's an excellent point. There's one level of the unseen cost of big marketing, and that is the number of clients that leave because you didn't pay attention to them. There's
Yeah,
some huge, you add 20 and you take your foot off the gas on your check-ins, your accountability checks, your relationship building with current clients, and five of them leave. Well, you don't see that when it comes to ad spend. Like you see that number, oh, I got so many. Well, if you lose the equal amount, you end up with a tremendous net loss on your balance sheets.
for sure. And we've done that because we've made the mistake multiple times. We didn't use any digital marketing for a lot of years. And then when we started the digital marketing, we got really excited about it. And it
Mhm.
was working great. And it's like, oh my God, we just got 50 new clients. And exactly what you said happens. We took our eyes off of the other 150 clients that we already had, and we lost 25 of them. And so you see, again, we did all this work, spent all this money to get 50, and
Mhm.
we lost 25, and now you got a net gain of 25. But those 25, they're all on. I think of it like they all got one foot out the door and the other foot on the banana
They're
peel because
all new.
they're
Yeah,
all new. Yeah, exactly. So there's no guarantee that any of them are staying,
right. Yeah.
and that created some real shaky months, where things had to obviously get rectified, and now, obviously we're trying to keep that attrition lower and lower and lower, and we're just putting more and more processes in place every month to maintain the clientele base that we have and keep them happy.
Yeah, Varsity House does a great job with that with their processes. They're naming the processes, making them sticky. And you do a great job with coaching that up, making things memorable. So I really appreciate that from you guys.
Thanks, man. And talk about the relationship side of things because it sound maybe again and for people listening, it's like you got to make personal relationships with everybody, right? And it's kind of not that, but it can be to some degree. But Synergy is a big company now. I mean, you have all in hundreds of members, over 500. You got I think 600 members
Mhm.
total. Obviously you can't be personal friends with everybody going to everybody's wedding and things like that. Give me some of the secret sauce. Like what does synergy mean when it means building relationships, community stuff? Like what are some of the key like actual tactics that you're doing to do that?
Yeah, so it starts with us scaling it to our staff understanding it's important. So young trainers
Yep.
need to be coached up on relationship building. Number one is you need to meet and greet everyone by name every time they enter the room. That is a non-negotiable. It is the first thing during our onboarding phase, and our staff is tested on it on Friday. So they come in, they get hired on Monday, they're meeting and greeting people. They know on Friday, I could point to anyone, they need to know their name. So
It's
you can't
awesome.
just say, "Oh, I'm bad with names." No, that's an excuse. You're bad with focus. Those are different. I'm going to give you a full week. I am paying you to focus on learning people's names. And one tactic to learn people's names is to learn something about them in the process.
It's a
So you learn
great point.
something more about them, you're going to remember them versus just a rote list of memorization of names. You're going to, oh, Susan has a couple of daughters that also come. That's what she told me. You can anchor it to a little bit
Right.
of
This guy went
information
to Notre
about
Dame. This guy's a chef, whatever it is. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So number one relationship building is to make it scalable by meeting and greeting everyone by name. That's simple. We say goodbye to everyone. We get a high five or fist bump on the way out. So it's just like if someone came to your house, someone just comes in and just doesn't sit down. Like they get meet them at the door, you greet them, you guide them to their first thing. They just don't leave. You say goodbye.
Yeah, how
Like
awkward would
those
it
are
be if I
common.
came up like the time I came over for dinner when we were in Colorado? It's like I just walk out and leave and don't say goodbye to nobody.
Yeah, amazing. And you'll see tons of gyms do it. People walk in and they start looking around. You got to have a shot clock in your head. If you're not talking to them in the first minute, they're feeling like they weren't welcomed into your place of
Yeah.
business. And so that is a fundamental tactic right at the beginning.
Hmm.
We also do a body language guide, and we teach that in week
Yep.
two. So before we get sets and reps, which all comes, that is honestly the easiest part of it. It's how do we walk around the room? How do we stand when we're delivering exercises? Do we hover over someone in a plank or do we bend our knees and speak on their level? That's all taught. If we're coaching somebody and there's other people waiting, like we open up our chest to the room so they can see that I'm acknowledging them. If someone's sharing something with us personable, we close off the room and then we use our body to block so they feel like they're telling us a secret. So they feel more comfortable that we take natural human interactions from the real world and apply them to
Love
the
it.
business. And we're not making it like a robotic, you're at a company, like we're all hanging out, working out. I know things about you. I'm here to guide you and help you. But this is a level of respect I'm going to give you as if we're in a household situation.
Yeah. I love those. And do you feel like, do you feel like the younger generation of people coming in now, the 20 somethings that we're trying to hire, those, let's call it the 21 to 25, 26 year olds, some of those social like etiquettes have waned a bit and they're not as socially tuned into some of those. Like when I was a kid, my father smacked me in the face, like, like Mr. Miyagi, like always look eye when you shake people's hands, you stare them in the eye and you look at them and you call him Mr. Johnson. You never just say hello to him. You call him, yeah, hello, Mr. Johnson. And like it would like beat that into your head. That those kind of things are gone. Like no little kid calls me Mr. Riggio anymore, which is a weird thing. I correct him like
Yeah.
it's Mr. Riggio.
I don't see the Mr. thing very often. I do hear what you're saying and understand it's more of the less in-person communication. They have less practice in it due to all the tech usage. I can't blame this generation though, because I don't assume I stunk as well at the beginning with it. It was just, hey, we're young and we're speaking to adults on a regular basis, and we want these adults to listen and follow what we say. Like that was tough even from our generation. So while it is a challenge, it's also a tremendous opportunity because you have the
Sure.
opportunity to teach these kids something that perhaps their parents didn't. And if you're able to change someone's personal philosophy, you're going to have a trainer or a member for life.
Yeah.
And so it gives you an opportunity to teach them something that's going to serve them in and outside of your business. And so, yeah, it's going to be a little, I have found they don't have a lot of depth to their conversation. They're very short, almost like a tweet or a text style conversation. However, once you teach them to get beyond that, like they can really engage. And now it's so much more rare, like you're saying. It gives you an opportunity to stand out by doing something that was very basic 10 years ago.
I was just going to say that, like the idea, of the handwritten notes, which has become
Mhm.
commonplace in our businesses, like
Yep.
sending home those impact cards every week. People literally come in. We've had people walking in the door crying, like nobody's ever done this for me. I don't. My husband doesn't even write me letters this nice, like stuff like that. And look, and yes, of course, part of it is that we want to grow our business, and part of it is we want to have, but part of it is like you said, I generally want to help people, and I know that you know that first person, I'm just speaking specifically of a woman that I'm thinking of. We have a woman who joined the gym recently. She was very, very nervous, intimidated about coming here, especially it's Varsity House. It's big, it's kind of noisy and loud here. It looks like a collegiate weight room. It's not like the typical like personal training studio look here. So she was very intimidated, and her first 2 weeks of training went exceptionally well. And one of our coaches wrote her a super, super nice letter, and we sent it home. And she came in like crying her eyes out, and like made a point to pull me aside and tell me how this has been like the most incredible experience, and that she feels like this has become like, a part of her life. You got your trainers are so great. So, and I think that I leave, I'm walking out the door to go to another business meeting and I'm leaving. I'm like on a high all day. So it's like my eyes, like I should have just wrapped it up and went home. It's like I won the day. And I think that, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, you forget about the human element of what we do. This is different than selling sneakers at a Nike store. And people are very emotionally tied to their fitness, their weight, their consciousness, their self consciousness, and so forth.
Joe, you did something very powerful right there. Great role modeling for all the people listening to Business of Strength. And that is you know the numbers of your business, you know the balance sheet, you know all that nerd stuff. That is important. But when you think of your company, you think about it in terms of faces and names and stories
Yeah.
that have influenced your life and you've been able to influence their life. And so if you think of it cold on just the number side, which could be attractive as people get out of that first phase of business, they're like, oh, well, I know how to do spreadsheets now. I'm going to hammer my scorecard. Yes, you need a scorecard. Yes, you need to do your numbers. But those numbers represent something. And those stories are what makes your business sticky and makes you an
Yeah.
attractive person to work with and work for.
Yeah. I think when you look at the great businesses that, I try to emulate, um, they almost all started in a garage, with a group of hardworking, like hungry people, and grew a brand that was client focused and help focused, where it was like we have either products and services that we know can help people, and I try to we try to do the same thing. So that's awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit, Joe, because obviously you're running the business for a bunch of years. Obviously, 2020 hits. We all kind of know that shit hit the fan in 2020, and all of our businesses got pretty chaotic. Community-based businesses like ours with a strong community vibe and a very personalized touch tended to do better than some of the big box brands that obviously we know, like the New York sports clubs of the world, went out of business and so forth. But in that time, the one thing that stands out to me is that you decided to burn the boats and change your life completely. And literally, like, and from the outside watching, and somebody who, is has a personal relationship with you, and it's like, I was like, what the hell is Joe doing? What's he doing? He's selling all his shit. He's moving. He's getting. I'm like, is it as he got? I was like, did the pandemic just crush you emotionally, and you were just like, I'm out of here. I can't take it no more. So talk us through that. Why you decided that this is the time. I'm going remote. I know I can run this company remote, which for a lot of people is terrifying to think that they can leave the business completely and run a business from, you know, 1,800 miles away with 3 or 4 meetings a week. How did that happen? What was the mindset going into that? And what was that transition like in terms of the tactics and business required to do that?
Yeah, so prior to 2020, I shared, I actually say 2020 probably fixed me emotionally, but for
Yeah,
breaking
yeah.
myself earlier on, where it helped me remember what was important, which was my family first. However, I'll get to the end of the story in a couple minutes, but prior to 2020, number one, you got to live below your means. Got to have some money in the bank. You have no options unless you have the money. Money isn't like this almighty powerful thing, but it gets to buy you freedom, freedom of choice. So we lived below our means. We lived in a duplex that we bought when we first got married, rented out the other half. We didn't have a mortgage, cover our mortgage. We bought some more. What a lot of people don't know is that we also had 8 duplex units at that time. And when New York passed the rent moratorium, 100% of them stopped paying. And I had so four duplexes plus our own 5 mortgages and a commercial building, 6 mortgages that I was paying, and none of them were paying any money. To
Jeez.
none of the tenants would pay any money due to the New York decisions. And we had 3 sons, and one of my son's teachers just said, "Hey, like if there's 2 more months of school left, I don't have good internet at home. I'm not going to teach." And they're like, "Okay." And so we didn't have home education, even though some places were going to streaming. And the straw that broke the camel's back, where I made a decision for my family, like this isn't going to be the long-term location, as I was having a conversation with the superintendent of our school district. Um, there were some school districts that did very well, same state did very well, but this individual was well behind the ball. They weren't getting any tablets out to the kids. Oh, we'll be back open in 15 days. This play told us we're not going to do anything, kind of throwing up his hands, blaming everyone else. And I was like, well, I've seen these other school districts that are neighboring. They're giving out the tablets so the kids can restart their education. It's their plan here. And he
Right.
wrote back an email, or his assistant, because he didn't even do it. They said, like, why aren't you at home enjoying time with your family? I was like, you motherfucker. Like, I have 6 employees that I'm paying. I have 6 mortgages that I'm carrying. I am home teaching now. My wife's home teaching 3 kids in
Right. And gyms are
different
completely
age
locked down.
groups. The gyms are locked down. Everyone's looking to me for solutions, and the members are doing great. We're doing a great job on the business side. Like, how dare you sit home and collect your salary and just be like, hey, why aren't you enjoying this time off? It's basically what she
Yeah.
was saying to me. It showed us so shallow empathy that I decided, like, I'm not sending my kids back to school. We have our dream home in this district, 2 ponds. We're out fishing out back. Like, I think you were at that house, maybe
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we did
yeah.
the
Yeah. No,
JV.
you had a great place.
Yeah, we had a big barn. Like, it was an awesome place. But I said, listen, this isn't straw that broke the camel's
You had the
back.
Hashey family bus,
Yeah, we had
the
the
adventure
adventure
bus.
bus. Yeah, we redid a bus to go camping with and all that stuff. Like, we had a great life. However, that was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of I don't expect my kids to go through this. I don't want them to have to deal with this type of situation. And the likelihood that it happens in this particular area, again, is pretty high. They have not been impressive, and it was constantly issue that they would
Hmm.
put their hands up and wait for, raise their taxes and hope that it solved the issue. And so if I could see my kids graduating college and then not coming, quote unquote, home because this area didn't have the job opportunity and didn't treat them well, like, why don't we find an area that aligns better with our family values? let's set them up there. And yes, maybe they move away still. That's still a possibility. I'm not going to, but I would love the opportunity if my kids live within a few hours. So let's live in a good place that has tons of opportunity, that there's no reason for them to have to escape essentially. So we looked at a map. We looked at weather, temperature, we looked at economics, job opportunities. We picked a spot on the map, pointed to it, flew out, never had been to Colorado before, looked at a house and bought it and started to rent it as a short-term rental. We liquidated, like it was just like, hey, we're in it right now. I can't throw my hands up because I'm blaming these other people for doing it. So I can't be the
Sure.
same way. I've got to be accountable and control the controllables. We're going to liquidate these duplexes at a loss, bought the short-term rental in the vacation area, and it took off like a rocket ship. And then we are able
Yep.
to turn that into four more and recoup that entire side of my company, which is the real estate side, in a
Hmm.
matter of 12 months
It's
by
awesome.
shifting to a lower tax burden, higher vacation area. Uh, Worked out tremendously well. Huge credit to my wife. She homeschooled. Our older two were like sixth and fourth grade at the time, when we had a young
Yep.
one that was like pre-K. She was homeschooled him for a year. Our older one wasn't a great traditional learner, and he wasn't going to do well on this tablet stuff either. Our middle one would have been fine. Like, I
Yep.
understand the situation's difficult. That's probably the best situation we could have, is some sort of virtual education, but it wasn't
Hmm.
happening in the district. We needed to get him into a different program. So he was slightly behind there. Moved here, excelled in the first year. It's a gifted, talented program, and so really skyrocketed. And so to bring it full circle, still own the gym when we do. So this isn't like, oh, during COVID we're down, I'm bailing.
Right.
We
Sell the
rebuilt
gym.
it
So yeah, yeah.
to the highest revenue ever in our company within 7 months. And so I believe it was July. I think in New York we were to open August.
Yep.
And so it was a little longer than that. So 11 months later was our highest revenue month ever as a company. Rebuilt it completely. The staff, a lot of them stayed because we kept mom, supported them and their families during the lockdown, did everything we could. Then I decided to move to the quote unquote first vacation home we bought by the start of the next school year. So we hit our highest ever in July, set up all the company for success. Then I moved in August and ran the company virtually through some great leadership people. Carly, Brian, I know you know them. They're
Hmm.
great,
Hmm.
passionate people for a couple of years. And I had some people make offers on the company during that time. And I went, Brian, we had a heart to heart on it. And he said that what if he was able to do it? So we figured out an arrangement that I would run it for an additional, I don't know, half year or so, until he was at a place where he could then take over. Because initially it was going to be a legacy company. I thought I was going to give it to my couple sons, but they suddenly became disinterested. And during the COVID, I didn't necessarily want to put them in that situation either. Um, so
Like where it was like
worked out.
forced upon this family business. Now you have to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And so worked through it, set it up for success, systematized it. And this is alongside those people that I mentioned. It's
Hmm.
not me doing everything. So I'm not
Sure.
taking full credit for it. The community really supported us, got the company in a good place. Year 15 rolled around. It was an opportunity to sell it and consult and work with other gyms around the country, which I still
Hmm.
get to scratch that itch, still get
Yep.
to live my passion. And so that opportunity rose. That opportunity rose at the same time, where we were able to line it all up and make it happen.
Awesome. And here we are today. Now what's your involvement still in Synergy? You're basically on the board. You're still running the company for a period of months and kind of liaisoning Brian in the takeover.
So it's very interesting. That was kind of the process while I was there. Uh, Brian's taken over. He's got ownership. I am there to support him. They are in the SPF group. They have my support. Talk
Yep.
to Carly regularly, our marketing manager. But I'm not on regular meetings, and I'm more there as a safety net if they need it. It's been interesting because I thought I would be involved, but I also want to give the staff breathing room, that now that, like, quote unquote, dad's out of the room, they get to
Yep.
do what they see fit. And they've come up with some creative things I've seen
Sure.
from the sidelines now, that they're doing some really awesome things and some things that I never thought of. So it's almost like taking the chains off a little bit in terms of like my how I like to run the company, and allow them to do it. If they ever need a safety net, I'm there for them. But they're doing a great job.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, they've been down here a few times. I know my team's, I think, is going up actually next week to visit with Carly and Brian. And there's
Yeah.
just Look, there's so much to learn. When I look at when I look at synergy, I see two things that always standing out, and obviously the culture that you created is, the community engagement and awareness, just like constantly spotlighting, this from the smallest to the biggest client wins. Everything from your first session in the gym to your 1,000th session in the gym to you know I just lost my first 5 pounds to Synergy is the greatest place and help me recover. Help me recover during my cancer treatments and things like that. Right, just like so many great heartfelt moments, and then obviously that kind of falls in line with the attrition. When I think, cheapo Joe Hashey and that he don't want to spend a penny on marketing, but the fact that you've been able to keep attrition at like 2% or better is incredible. And I'll just give you guys some scale, right? So like, for the people listening, they might not understand what that means in terms of dollars, right? But like, let's put it in dollars. Varsity, we'll call them varsity bucks, right? Our average client is paying about $400 a month. That means our average client, value is right around $4,000 or so for a client here at Varsity House. That's one client per year. If attrition is industry average of 6%, right, that means for every 100 members, you're losing 6 a month. We have 400 members here. That means you'd lose 24 members a month. If you cut that in half and you cut attrition to 3 for the math majors out there, that means you're only losing 12 people a month, right? You do the math, right? 12 times 12 equals 144 clients saved in a year. Multiply that by 4,000, right? That's $575,000, right? We're talking, for a lot of people, that's your entire gym's revenue out there. That 500 grand is a very successful gym, right? So when you think about it in the scale of things, it might not sound like a lot for the gym that's only got 50, 60 clients, and they might not be top of mind. But if you're growth minded and your idea is to grow your business to multiple locations, you have to look at the totality of your clients. As a company, Varsity House will serve by the end of this year close to 700 people. Now those numbers become enormous, and every percentage point is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So for us, trying to lower our retention or lower our attrition, improving retention by 2% is roughly about 250 grand in this business, and overall for a company, almost $400,000 in total revenue saved. And think about that when you think, oh, marketing spend, clients, think about what you can do. And that's 400 grand in money in the bank, right? So, so when you think about what you can do in terms of hiring great employees, giving back to the community, donating to your favorite charities, what all the great things that you can do with 400 grand versus just pissing it out the window and letting people walk out the door. That's what I think about when I think about, synergy. And, we are doing our damnedest to model some of the things that you guys are doing up there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sending my team up there next week. So
It'd be awesome to have. How are we doing on time? Because I have one point that I want to make on it, but I don't want to go too long.
sure, no, we're good. I mean, I
Okay,
cleared out my
cool.
day. We can stay on until 7 o'clock at night, Joe.
Good, good. We got, yeah, I'll give you a 15, 20.
Okay.
But I do consider like this. I am the cheap person when it comes to marketing dollars. Everyone knows that. I have everyone I know. I'm always wearing the same shorts. I got some Nike dry fit shorts. I got 15 pair of them because I like them. Never buy another pair of shorts. I'm not buying these skinny shorts that the
Have
New
you ever
Jersey
even
folks
taken an Uber?
wear.
You walk home from the airport and
I'll
shit.
call, I walk to airports. If it's under a marathon, I'm walking. I don't want to talk to about new people anymore. But I do look at it like this, and not enough people do. You have upstream dollars and downstream dollars. So is it more efficient, let's say, as a society, for us to fix someone that's addicted to drugs, or have preventative measures that they never get addicted to drugs in the first place? What's the better outcome? Now, some people still will, and you still need to spend some dollars on that, the end of the day prevention of it. But what are you doing upstream to try to prevent them from having this issue? And so in our company, we talk about it. We spend roughly 2 to 1, $2 upstream to run member retention events, synergy games, community events. And then we still have some spending there at the end for the marketing dollars to
Right.
refill the late saves. If someone wants to cancel, what can we do or offer them to keep them? But as a passion, it's way better for us to have people that never get in that situation, never want to leave. And so we invest. We do the handwritten cards that Joe mentioned. They do a varsity house as well. We'll stop by people's house and drop off a book every once in a while. That costs money, costs labor hours, but it's us working within our passion. And so it's a little bit easier for us to purposefully spend upstream dollars to not have to constantly be refilling, dealing with the issues downstream.
So a quick tactic for everybody. We just launched our newest gym. We have 77 members, and we're in day 4 of being open. We sold 73 or 74 pre-sale, which for us is a giant win, and so far so great. And one of the key tactics that we took away from you guys was hand delivering their welcome packets. And so every founding member that joined, we hand delivered. We had Anthony, our facility leader, hand deliver their welcome packet, which was, the Varsity House blender bottle shaker with a book and some swag and a bunch of, like, they got like the wristbands and everything like that. And we hand delivered it, knocked on the door. Hey, we're super excited to have you. We can't wait to get you in the gym. Thanks so much. It's great meeting you. Some of the people like invited them into the house. They were in the back.
Bacon cookies.
Yeah. We're in the back having a barbecue. You want to come in the back? And it was
Oh,
like,
it's so
it was
cool.
such a, and he said it was the great balance between being like, really getting to meet these people and meet them where they're at and meet them in their homes and stuff, and being incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's how you get to be more personable
Yeah.
with these
He's
kids.
like, my skin got 3 inches thicker during that process for sure. He's like, by the end of this launch, he's like, pretty much nothing will ever phase me again in terms of sales and marketing. So let's shift gears a little bit, Joe, because I want to, I think it's so important, some of the stuff that you do outside of the gym realm. And I know that you make a lot of parallels with your own personal fitness, and you've made me fitter. You've made me take more of an awareness. You make me not want to drink alcohol. You've made me sign up for some, harder events that maybe I would have thought would it be outside my realm. And then I see Joe, again, an ex, 280-pound football player, weight, let's call it a washed up meathead like myself, doing some of the things. And I'm like, you know what? If Hashey can do that shit, so can I. And it's just really a mental state. So talk to me about, you know, how did the mountains, the crazy hiking, the hard things, the 100 milers, the 200 milers, how did that, like, where did that come from? And what circuit in the fucking circuit breaker in your brain broke? And what tripped that circuit?
So I'm constantly motivated by the psychological need for completion. My dad died right when I was out of college. He was 300, probably close to 350 pounds, pack a day smoker, a 2 liter bottle of Pepsi, ate Spam all the time, had congenital heart failure at like
Jeez.
50, passed away a couple years later, right when I was getting out of college. My younger brother was still in high school. And so that really, at that time, I was 300 pounds, full 3 bills. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to go down this road. His dad died when he was in high school.
Oh
And I have
shit.
3 brothers. Like, which hash is actually going to make it out of their 50s? There hasn't been someone since the Civil War that's been a hash that's actually lived past 50.
Jesus.
So I'm like, I'm going to change that. And so I started getting a little bit healthier, more fit. And then we started doing these challenges. Honestly, out of the gym, there was a guy at the gym, Kevin, loved hiking. And he was like, oh, you
I've
just
seen
lift
you mention
weights.
him a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you just lift weights. You can't climb mountains like I can. And we're just smack talking. Like, yeah, I can. Let's go. Like, let's go to the tallest mountain in New York. Let's go right now. Like, with no training, just BSing at the gym. And so we went off the Adirondacks and went up Marcy and down. And I was talking a lot of trash. It was pretty hard. Um, but then like, all right, let's look up some challenge hikes. Let's look at Franconia Ridge. Let's look at the Pemmy Loop. Let's look at the Presidential Traverse. We're looking at hardest hikes in the East Coast just to challenge ourselves for things. We started doing some of them. And I remember listening to a podcast by Cameron Haynes. He was on
Mm.
one, Joe Rogan.
Yep.
Talking about his son trying to run a 100-mile race. His son, I don't know, like 16 or something at this time. It doesn't quite make it. He makes it to 90. And Cam's busting his chops like, well, 90 is really good, but it's not 100. And I think Rogan asked him, like, what went wrong? He's like, he just hadn't been through enough stuff yet. When you're 16, 17, 18, 19, life is good.
Yeah.
Like, might have been broken up a couple times, but you don't know what challenges and hardships there really are out there. You don't haven't had to deal with cancer. You probably haven't had to bury a parent. You haven't had to deal with a child passing away or any of these things in life that is tremendously, truly hard, and it calluses your mind over. Um, and everyone has their own version perspective. Everyone went through some crap in 2020, had to make a lot
Mhm.
of hard decisions. And like that ability to endure is very attractive to me. It's very attractive to be able to hone those skill sets in a non-business setting without all the emotion. Like, all right, let's go out, let's go 100 miles. At the 50-mile point, you might want to quit, but what's the point? You still got to go there 50 to get out of the mountains in the woods. So you might as well just keep going. Like
Right.
it's like no one's coming to save you. You have to solve your problems. You might have a little ache on your foot. You can't quit because there is no quitting. There's no helicopter coming. No one's coming. You just got to solve the problem and keep moving. And so that helped harden my mind a little bit and made me less emotional about small little things during the day, made me a better, I believe, boss, husband, father, where it just wasn't the small stuff bothering me because I've been through some shit. And then you put yourself through some challenges like that to reinforce it.
Sure.
I love those. I know you've been at them.
Sure.
Got a bunch lined up for this year to
Sure.
keep going with it. But I view like these ultras or even the 4,140 pull-ups I did on my 40th birthday, which was a bit of completion. So I always got zero on the presidential fitness test because I was a chunky kid. But to drop over 4,000 on my birthday was great. Just a
It's
sense of
amazing.
completion, a sense of making things right, a sense of experiencing life in a way that a lot of other people are unwilling to do so. And I really enjoy that. I know you're
That's
down.
awesome.
Yeah, I know you're down with a bunch of it too. And so I'm trying not to go soft on it. I signed up for a bunch this summer. I think three ultra marathons. My brother's like, let's do a challenge next week. I'm like, all right, we've got some like $60 tickets on Frontier to fly the Grand Canyon right after I leave Michigan where we're meeting and go down and back 50 miler.
You gonna do the rim to rim to rim?
Yep.
Sick,
7 days notice,
fuck.
always
I want to
ready.
come. I got so much FOMO.
We're gonna
Damn
hit
it.
that challenge. We're flying to Phoenix, rental car, bang, bang, right back to Phoenix, and I'll
Just the
be
two
home
of
by my
yous
kid's
do it.
football game.
Yeah.
That yeah, I threw out the invite. I think I threw it on social media. No, I think I might have invited G-Man or someone else from the group too, because he had asked me about some. But we're flying right in and we're
It's the
banging
week of
it out.
you're doing it the week of the 24th?
Whatever's
Like
right after from Michigan. Michigan,
it's
right to the Grand Canyon.
like that weekend, the 20th, the 20 like
The Monday, the 21st might be the hiking or
22nd.
22nd.
Damn, that's gonna be a tough sell. You know, I'm taking a big trip in June with my wife, and I
Ooh,
mean, with my friends going, doing my yearly Misogi to Australia
hell
with some
yeah.
buddy, and
I didn't know you were going to
that's gonna,
Australia. What are you doing
yeah,
there?
yeah. Well, that trip, that 2 week hunting trip is in Australia, in the mountains of Australia. So it's gonna be
Oh, that's
wild.
gonna be sweet. That's
Yeah,
yeah, I got
man.
FOMO too, but that's the point of living like this is because you're always ready. You can do things like this in a way
Yeah.
that most people can. I know you can. We talked the Green Mountain Race. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna hit
Yep.
it again this year. This is my
Are you gonna
second.
do it? With
Yeah,
did we talk Mr. Vince into doing it?
I yes we did. So I'm showing up. It's right
All right.
before
Did
one
they
of the
open
masterminds.
registration yet? Because I'll sign my
They
ass
did
up
two
right
weeks
now.
ago. Go ahead
All
and
right.
sign
All right.
up.
All right.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
gonna hit that. I signed up for 100K in 2 months. I signed up for 55 miler in the
All right.
mountains in
I might
4
have to bring a
weeks.
whole cheering crew just for Vince because I will bust his chops.
Uh, it's his Masogi, him dipping his
Yeah,
toe.
that's a good one. It's
And I'm
miserable.
gonna give the listeners one too. I was talking about this with someone else, Rachel Shannon. I've been trying to get some people to do some harder things. I've been trying to invite them, G-Man, some other people. You've already done, so you're already leading the way. Don't have to worry about you. I think you should have to run or hike your gym's revenue, or either
Oh,
do it monthly if you're a smaller gym, or you take the average at the end of the year, do something hard in January. If your average revenue is whatever 100K, you gotta go do 100K.
that would be sick. That would be
And you can
sick.
do it as a team, spread it out a little if you're soft, or you can do it as individuals if you're hard. Uh, I mean, choose what you got to do. Dan Goodman
Yeah.
throwing at 5K, then you could go
Yeah, yeah,
90.
yeah. You big him and Big Michael throwing a 5K, and then
Yeah.
I gotta do 90K.
I think it genuinely keeps us in touch with what we're trying to teach people, which is you can experience more in life by being healthier.
And I think the big lesson, at least for me, I've always done strength training. I've always done some challenges, but again, in the last couple of years, really trying to push the boundaries of what I thought. When I again, my son's going to be 7 this year, so roughly about 7 years ago, it was like, all right, I've done this weightlifting thing for a long time and I've been big and strong, but I'm never going to be, I have no plans or want to be, the next AJ Roberts and squat 1,200 pounds or anything like that. I'm not going to make any money as a strength athlete. I just like being, a big meathead from Jersey. But I similar epiphany. Mom had a heart attack at 50, died dad at 48. My mom's brothers all had heart attacks. My dad's mother dropped dead when I was 1 year old. I never met her. My grandmother. And I kind of started having some of those epiphanies myself. And it's like, all right, like when I analyzed my life and my training, there was two things that stuck out. One, I've always told myself the head trash of I hate running. And I just always said that to myself. It just became a thing. Like
Yeah,
I always
same.
talked that. So I just fucking started running all the time. And I just started running 5Ks every week. And then those 5Ks became 10Ks, 15Ks. And I'm never going to be like a marathoner,
No,
but I'm pretty confident, like right now on a Sunday morning, no problems, no questions asked. The fire alarm goes off. I can run 15 miles, no problem. Right.
yeah,
Maybe not 100, but I've changed that mindset of like, it's not so bad. And it's just another aspect of my training. And the other thing, was really just optimizing the other areas of my health, cutting back on the alcohol tremendously, really changing the way I ate and my relationship with food. And it was like, all right, if this is going to be a long-term thing and I'm going to live to, 100, um, some of these things have to change. And that was it. And here we are a few years later. And now it's like, I almost feel like, and I'm sure you feel the same way, if I don't have some of these things in my plan for the year, I almost feel incomplete. And I feel like, am I wasting time? Am I not doing? And I'm planning little things. I know you are too. I want to get into that real quick too. Is, I'm trying to plan some of these Misogi ideas and these challenges for my 6-year-old son. And it maybe just like we have like this weekend. He wants to try and do 100 pull-ups, right? And he's going to break it up. We're going to do 5 here, 3 there. He's going to jump on some of them, whatever. But it's just he has a goal, and it's like let's do something hard. My wife, she wants to, do a harder hike. So when we go out to Arizona in September for our retreat, our plan was to do just the rim to rim, not the I don't think she's going to be ready for the rim to rim to rim, but that's still 25 miles. That'll be way outside the comfort zone for her. And I think it'll be a life-changing experience for us to just experience the Grand Canyon together as a couple, and B, for her to push the mental state of her ability and say, you know what? I can do a lot more than I thought I could. And
no,
I
that's
give I
great.
didn't give
I'm
myself enough credit.
really proud of how you're leading your family, Joe. It's really, really awesome. Like you said, the challenges are great. We did a formal rite of passage this past year. My older boys, a Pikes Peak climb.
It's
My
awesome.
younger one, we did a manitou incline climb, which I knew he was capable. He was 5, but it was a 1 mile, 2,000 foot climb.
He
Like
beat
it's
TJ's time up
no
the
joke.
mountain.
He did. He did. He beat zero. Uh, so like creating this multi generational, you can say health, but it's a perspective on how to
Yeah.
think about life. It's your philosophy being passed down to the next generation, and your wife's too. And it's
Tell me,
amazing to
tell me,
see.
tell me a little bit about the so obviously, Joe's teachings have transcended the gym business. And I would say, like, in terms of, business, you're one of the sharpest guys that I speak to on a regular basis. And every time we have conversation about business, we always learn something from you. And I think you've been ahead of the curve with your own learning there. But then again, I saw this shift in your personality and the commitment to your own personal health and just how that was overflowing naturally. Not, I don't know if it was intentional at first, but like naturally, when we would come to masterminds together, you were starting to do all these fitness things and you were starting to instill some of those things in your family. All of a sudden, I see your kids hiking up the mountains. I see your wife doing it. I see a lot of other challenge type stuff, and I don't want people to listen and just say like it has to be all physical stuff. There's mental challenges, there's commitment
Public speaking
challenges.
for
You
kids,
speak
yeah.
exactly right, and you could kind of use a variety of tools to improve their abilities in a bunch of different buckets. But and then you start naturally, like I said, kind of just giving advice to people in other gym me heads, right? Like who are trying to balance their own personal fitness, which you see it firsthand. Like it's ironic that a lot of the guys who own gyms, there's a lot of guys who own gyms that don't look like they own gyms,
Yeah.
and I think that there's an unfortunate disconnect there Tell me a little bit about the Strong Family Project. That's kind of a thing that I see you and Mel doing. I listen to the podcast regularly. The book idea that you have. I have all the topics. I started writing it. I will get the book done. It will happen. That is my main goal for next year is to finish that book and get that done. Why, who, what, where, when, why did the Strong Family Project thing come about?
So when we moved out, I viewed the last 15 years of the gym business as a tremendous blessing. I would be doing a disservice to that blessing that I would have been able to receive if I just dinked around up in the mountains by myself. And so we started a passion project, Strong Family Project, with my wife, so we sit down and discuss family uh, structures and tactics and techniques to grow up kids with your own personal values and however you see it fit. We teach that. And Strong Family Project podcast. And like you said, it's not all physical. We use that as one of the tools. Vince does a great job with this at Mastermind. Like this, come daughter, come public speak. Like
That's
teaching the kids
amazing.
how to public speak. You're talking about teaching your son how to introduce himself. Like these are all purposeful and intentional, incredibly valuable things. So I want to make the most of my time. So we run it as a passion project, help share it with people. Or like you said, our kids watch us do things. When I did the 4,140 pull-ups on my birthday, my son Henry did the last 50 or so with me on his birthday when he was 11. He did 1,100 at 11
It's
to
amazing.
celebrate. And these are milestones that they remember. They don't remember the cake they had 5 years ago, but he'll always remember the day he did over 1,000 pull-ups on it.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, some of this stuff isn't great for longevity. Like if I go run 100 miles, it's probably not adding any years to my life. It
No,
might be just the opposite, but there's a philosophy and challenge that helps with it. Getting the kids involved in it, working aid
sure.
stations, and as pacers, it's one technique. We do hiking together and doing challenges. They can view themselves as people who can do hard things. And my goal is I want to run a 100 miler with all of them. I don't
Yeah.
really care if I ever run another one by myself. I love lifting, like you said. I get sad if my deadlift goes below 500, my bench below 300, my squat below 400. I get sad. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the
Same.
only heavyweight that usually shows up at the 100 milers, show up like 235, everyone else like 150. I'm not in it to win it. I'm in it for middle pack guy, but I'm in it for the mindset shift. So I'm not
Mhm.
looking, like you said, to be an AJ Roberts 1,000 pound plus squatter. I'm looking for to receive the mental and cognitive benefits without crippling my body and making me weak and tiny. So I
Awesome.
think that's uh, my goal. I have one he's 6 now, so maybe in 15 years, 16 years, he'll be ready to do one together with his old man. I'll be closer to 60 at that time, but hey, I gotta still hang.
Yeah, I mean, I've started jumping the gun on some of the things that I want to do with Antonio, right? And it's like I'm looking for stuff, and it's like says minimum age 12. I'm like, he can do that shit, right? I'm like, I'm like, he can do it, right? And it's my wife's
Yeah,
like, yo,
he's
he's
12.
down, he's down. Yeah, he's only 6.5. Like, we still got time. He's like, I know, but I feel like, I have such a intrinsic urge that time is fleeting, and I want to I want to capitalize on momentum and time as much as humanly possible. So, I try to push the envelope.
Yeah, that's right, and it's to teach them what the values are that we hope our members learn at the gyms, and hope the people
Yeah.
that we impact learn. Like I'm genuinely considering looking into the legality of it. So yeah, I gotta look into the legality. Like even beyond my life, I am going to base some money, the inheritance, based on them being able to accomplish things in their life. So you go give a
You
public
don't
speech or
graduate college, you don't get shit.
well, here's the thing. I don't want to get down the whole inheritance road, but like if you're 50 and your parents pass and you get some money, like so you're 50, you should be established by then.
Correct.
But at 22, if I'm still kicking around a little older, well, you got to do a 100-mile race. I'll give you 10 grand to start your life. But you got to be able to hang. You got to be able to fill a room of 100 people and speak for an hour. That would be
That's
another
awesome.
challenge. I'm gonna give you 5 grand of your inheritance early. You're starting your life. So it's not going to be all transactional and monetary, but they got to know like you got to be someone to earn something, and
Yeah.
will benefit their lives a lot more than at 50. So
You hit the nail on the head there because I think like again like guys like us who didn't come from a lot, we worked our asses off to have a little bit, and obviously our kids are going to have so many more opportunities than maybe we had by the time that we were 18, 19, 20, they're going to have a lot of opportunities and potentially a lot more financial opportunities. And you can't just give it to them, because that creates a lot of, nepotism, and and just like a lot, I think, in many cases, pulls the rug out of their motivation completely. So you got to make
It's a
them earn it.
great point. I don't want to sound heartless, but I'm going to sound heartless. There's one country that has the best statistic for family wealth maintaining generation to generation. I'm honestly slipping on which one. I'm going to give it to Holland, but I forget which one. But it was the system that they use to bequeath their wealth to the next generation. They choose one kid, the best one, and give them all the money.
Wow.
So if you have five kids, whichever one's performing the best that you think will keep the family legacy, they get everything. Everyone else gets nothing. Figure it out. This is a
Imagine that.
performance base. Yeah, I know that wouldn't fly. I'm not saying that's right. However, if you had some things they could accomplish along the way to give them a jump start, but they're also being someone in the process, I see no issue with that.
No, none at all. None at all. I think there is learning in there. I have a commitment chart in my home, and if Antonio can check off all the commitments each week, he gets money put into account. I teach him how to use it. He's only allowed to ever use 20% of that at one time, and whatever he uses, we have to match with an investment, right? And it's like you have to teach finances and money to kids, and the power of money. Like you said in the beginning, money doesn't it's not the only thing that matters in life, obviously, but it is an incredibly important tool on planet Earth, and you have to know how to use it. It's like swinging a hammer. Like, you're not going to need it for everything, but you need to know how to use it.
Never want to lose the appreciation for that. I'm very fortunate to have a job career, gym business that had gone so well that I focus on running my company, store some money. Like I get to fly to the Grand Canyon, add a couple extra days, and fly back. You're going to Australia. Like, how many people get to live that freedom? They're gonna put into their boss for days off and like schedule. Oh, I got only had 10 days off all year. I get 5 days off. I can't do it now. Like, incredible freedom that allows, because you're smart with your money, you're smart with your business. It pays off tremendous dividends.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Joe, this has been fantastic. I could go on for another 3 hours. I'm going to spend a lot of time with you next week,
We're gonna do it.
and we'll be able to chat some more, and maybe retool some more ideas and ammo for another podcast down the road. We'd love to have you on again. You're always welcome. Joe, tell people the best places to get in contact with you, where they can get a little bit more Joe Hashey in their life.
Yeah, the best place honestly is my Instagram, which isn't fancy. J Hashey one, the number one, because I think my mom took J Hashey. So that's how slow to the tech I am. But that's where I'll usually post. And I'll share some things about or you can visit strongfamilyproject.com, or the Strong Family Project podcast would be a great thing to follow. Just short 30-minute episodes, me and my wife talking about life. I'd be honored if we get the opportunity to help you out. Joe, appreciate you so much having me on the show.
Absolutely. You're the best, Joe. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you next week. And this was a great episode. This is the Business of Strength, everybody. Have a great day.